LBJ and their cronies together had a tight-fisted group that said, let's get this going. This attack was probably planned a year in advance. It just wasn't a spur in the moment thing. They knew in a year in advance how this was going to work out. They send our ship into the war zone, and think about the sexiness of the USS Liberty being sunk by the Arabs. Our country would be crying for blood.
Today, we will be covering one of the most controversial events in US history, an event that the mainstream media will not touch with a 10-foot pole, and that is Israel's attack on the USS Liberty in 1967. My name is James Lee, and you're watching Beyond the Headlines on Breaking Points. On June 8, 1967, the USS Liberty, a United States Navy research vessel, was attacked in international waters by Israeli forces during the Six-Day War, killing 34 American servicemen and wounding another 171 others. While the official narrative from Israel claims that the attack was a tragic case of mistaken identity, many survivors and researchers have argued otherwise. How did a ship that was clearly marked be attacked by a supposed ally? Why was the Liberty not provided adequate air support despite distress calls? Was there a cover-up to hide facts and silence veterans and survivors? The USS Liberty incident remains the only case of an attack on a U.S. ship without full congressional inquiry. And joining us today is Mr. Phil Tourney. He was a U.S. Navy petty officer aboard the USS Liberty. He's also the president of the USS Liberty Veterans Association. He's dedicated his life to seeking justice and uncovering the full truth behind this tragic event. Mr. Tourney, thank you so much for your service and welcome to Breaking Points.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Glad to be here.
I think a good place to start today is maybe with telling the audience what the USS Liberty was doing off the coast of the Sinai Peninsula in 1967, and what did you see that day on June 8th?
Yes, our ship, the USS Liberty, was in that area because our government orders to be in that area. We left Africa as fast as we could to get there. Well, the most sophisticated spy ship in the world, NSA, CIA guys that were the spooks. And yeah, we were listening in on everything. Of course we were. I wasn't in that area. I was in damage control. But we knew what went on. I didn't know exactly what they were picking up for anything. It was none of my business.
When did you first know that it was the Israelis who had attacked, and what was your reaction to that?
Well, when we first knew the Israelis were the attackers was the torpedo boats. Uh, they had the Star David on, which is, well, I thought they were there to help us, but no, they weren't. They were there to sink us. But that's the first time we knew it was Israel. Everything else was blackened out. The planes were. So we go up. They get a torpedo launch attitude, and they fired 5 torpedoes at us. 2 missed. I saw 2 go aft. I don't know where the other 2 went, but I know where the one that murdered 30, 25 of my mates went. Blew them to bits in an instant. That's what they did to us. And then they sent troop carrying helicopters over to finish us off.
One really powerful assertion you made in your book, which is titled, What I Saw That Day, Israel's June 8th, 1967 Holocaust of U.S. Servicemen Aboard the USS Liberty and Its Aftermath, which is a pretty provocative title, by the way. But you wrote that, quote, Israel got away with cold-blooded, premeditated murder of my shipmates, pure and simple. I'm wondering, how did you come to that conclusion, that Israel attacked the USS Liberty on purpose?
Well, James, we were deliberately sent there uh, by the Admiral McCain. We were, as I said, the best spy ship in the world, and we were in port, and we got emergency orders to get there. And all the ships were going one way. We were the only ones going that way. We get on station. These Israeli Air Force surveilled our ship, and everything like that. We were sent there by the Johnson administration in collusion with the Israeli government to sink that ship as fast as they could and blame it on the Arab states. There was nuclear aircraft, SAC airplanes, on their way to Cairo even before we got attacked. And when our ship did not sink by the grace of God, they called back those airplanes because we didn't sink. And they already fessed up. It was too late. We made a mistake. We made a mistake. And those planes got turned around. And that's verifiable.
I want to ask you about the investigations that took place at the time. There was a U.S. Navy Court of Inquiry that was released on, I believe, June 18th, 1967, just 10 days after the attack. The report concluded that the attack was a case of mistaken identity. There was also a CIA report that was published June 13th, 1967, that also concluded that the attack was not made in malice and was a mistake. Secretary of Defense McNamara also testified later that year in Congress, and supported the conclusion that the attack was not intentional. I'm wondering, do you know who was involved in these investigations? How was it conducted? And did you have a chance to tell your account of what happened that day?
The couple of days following that, uh, we were boarded by Captain Ward Boston and Admiral Isaac Kidd because we were on our way to Malta. And he interrogated all of us, uh, asked us what we saw and what we were doing. And I was in damage control. I was all over that ship. I saw a lot, a lot, a lot. And when Admiral Kidd got aboard the ship, they were collecting everything they could. And his lawyer, and he was getting directions, orders from Admiral John S. McCain. He was commander of European forces. And so the investigation lasted 7 days, contrary to what we all told them. Uh, Within 7 days, sir, they say it was a mistaken identity, and they took the word of our attackers rather than take the word of the American heroes on that ship that saw it. And
Yeah,
go
I'm
ahead,
wondering
sir.
what were some of the discrepancies or omissions in the official reports that you didn't think matched up with what truly happened based on what you saw, what you experienced?
Well, the admiral came in, threw the stars on the table. It was a stainless steel uh, table there for sick bay. So he says, "Talk to me just like I'm your dad." And it was great because it was a great relief for me, I thought. And we all told him our story, and I told him exactly what I saw, what I thought, and why didn't you come help us? I said I thought World War III was going on or something. You didn't have time for us. Here you are, 17 hours when we got help then, but here you are now. I would like to know why. And I told him about the torpedo boats getting shot up. Napalm dropped on our ship and everything like that. I mean, he could see it. He knew it. And he looked at me and he says, "Listen." He put his stars back on. He says, "Listen, don't you ever breathe a word to anybody about that. Or you will." Many of the guys got fines, but he told me fines, imprisonment, or worse. That's how they treated us after the Zionist state of Israel tried to murder all of us.
So there's a lot of evidence you think that was omitted from those official reports that you guys were telling them they were just kind of brushed aside in order to just move forward?
Absolutely, it was brushed aside. That's why they threatened us. That's exactly why. They didn't care what we said. It was a complete cover up from day one. I mean, day one, it was covered up, and it's still covered up 57 years later.
Yeah, I think because you wrote in your book that President Johnson and Secretary of Defense McNamara had personally ordered the recall of a rescue aircraft that was sent to your aid. Why do you think they would recall a rescue mission like that? Was it too dangerous, or was it compromised to strategic military operations, or something else that you're kind of alluding to, this collusion or cover up? Any insight into that?
Oh, absolutely. I got a lot of insight to it. They were recalled by Johnson and Mac. Well, first it was McNamara. Cap Telly, a friend of mine, he became a good friend. He's passed on now. He said, you know, we sent our aircraft off. They were recalled by Washington from McNamara. Uh, get those ships back, and even before they hit the horizon, they were called back that quick. And so he brought them back. They sent another volley up after reconfigured, and then Johnson got on the phone and says, "You better uh, turn those GD planes around. Uh, I don't care if every sailor on that ship gets hurt or whatever, killed. We're not going to embarrass our ally." Of course, this came out just a little later, but it all fits in. It all fits in, James. And we can. Well, I wouldn't be on here saying this if if it wasn't the truth. In fact, I wish we could go in front of Congress and give our testimony that they won't give us. They haven't given us for 57 years. We'll sit there and we'll take the oath, and if they say we're committing perjury, put us in jail. Put us in jail, but at least give us our day.
Yeah, I think the motive is interesting because they have to have some motive to do that egregious of an action. You guys are a research vessel, a spy ship, and so some have said maybe they try to take it out because you guys knew something about their military objectives, or some were saying that they intended to blame Egypt for the attack, creating the pretext to start a bigger war to get the U.S. involved. What are your thoughts? Do you have any specific? Do you have any evidence, or do you have any thoughts either around the motivations of the attack?
Yes, and we have plenty of people that know the real facts. We have the evidence. Eshkol and LBJ and their cronies together had a tight-fisted group that said, let's get this going." This attack was probably planned a year in advance. It just wasn't a spur of the moment thing. They knew in a year in advance how this was going to work out. They send our ship into the war zone, and think about the sexiness of the USS Liberty being sunk by the Arabs. Our country would be crying for blood, and they would have got a lot of blood. But that's what they did. It was a collusion between two crooked governments that will not break. Those two crooked governments right now are still holding back the truth, and they have for 57 years. Our politicians are nothing but bought and paid for whores by the APAC. Every one of them's got an APAC handler, APAC buddy. So, letters to Congress or call them or whatever is useless. If you want to do that, it's like be prepared to be prepared to be lied to.
And I very much get why the Israelis would want to move on from this, but why do you think the U.S. They seem to be more loyal to a foreign nation or protecting a foreign nation than their own veterans and covering up what you're calling a war crime?
James, I'm glad you asked me that. Uh, our country has been in that position for a long time. We've been, you know, Israel has led us around by the nose with money. They got more money murdering American on the high seas than they ever got in their life. So our country, our government doesn't do anything because their hands are tied. You know, that they won't believe that. That's why Congress won't let us in because do they want to be embarrassed for covering up? They're part of cold-blooded murder for hiding this. All of them are guilty of it.
And what's I'm curious, what's I mean, it's been 57 years, like you said. This has probably been a tough 57 years. So in the beginning, you mentioned that, were you able to speak out at the time, or when did you start speaking out and telling your side of the story?
I didn't start speaking out till I read an article in the old Rocky Mountain News by Stan White, Master Chief, good friend of mine. He's passed on now. I read that. I said, "Wow, it's a good." It wasn't a long article, but it showed me the people are out there talking, and yeah, uh, like I said, the whole world just got off my shoulders. I felt light because I could at least talk. Uh, my wife didn't even know I was in the military because I was afraid to tell her. And she supported me ever since. Wow, mm, how could this happen? How could you hold this back? And I told her. But yeah, that's what it did. But I've been on this trail ever since, and I'm not going to quit.
Have you experienced any kind of intimidation or threats from either the US government or the Israeli government?
I had two of them. One on my truck. There was four of my all my lug nuts were loose. I didn't know who did it, but I had an idea because I was very vocal, very vocal. I'm in San Diego. My wife and I are at the bar getting a drink, waiting for a table. This guy comes up next to me and he says, "Oh, you were on the USS Liberty." I says, "Yeah, how'd you know that?" He says, "I know." And he had a watch, big like a camera watch. He had it right in my face. And I said, "Hey, but get that thing out of my face." And you just tell me the best thing to do about the liberties. Just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. And I said, "Who are you, Mossad?" He says, "Yeah, yeah." And my wife heard him. Oh man, she almost crawled over me to beat him up. And security came down. We went upstairs. They got us up there. The next day, I went down there. I asked, "Who was this guy?" One of the bartenders said that he had been in there a couple days earlier, pretending to be a doctor. So yeah, that's intimidation as far as I see it. Was he really Mossad, or was he really wasn't? It didn't matter to me. I got the message.
Yeah, we've seen as of late, especially since Israel's assault on Gaza after October 7th last year, anyone who speaks out against Israel for any reason could be deemed an anti-Semite. So I'm curious, over the years, how have you navigated this issue of, trying to balance this pursuit of justice for the surviving veterans and for those who lost their lives on June 8th, 1967, with being potentially forever smeared as an anti-Semite, which, I don't think very many people legitimately are.
Well, we've had people call us anti-Semitic, uh, Nazis, and Jew haters for just trying to tell the truth. You know, uh, we're not Jew haters. We're truth lovers. But let the chips fall where they may. I mean, when you do the crime, uh, you should pay the time. And they just didn't do this to America. They did it to all of us. I mean, to the USS Liberty, they did it to all of us. So I don't know, it's very sad that we have to go through these extremes. And as angry as I get, that I just want people to listen, man. This is our country, and You need to help us, please.
So going forward, overall, what are you and the other survivors of the USS Liberty looking for? What would constitute justice for you?
The truth. We're not looking for money. We're not looking for anything, just the truth. Our country deserves the truth of what two countries can do to one. Our country can't have two masters. It just can't happen. But that's what's going on right now. It happened in '67, and it's been that way ever since, probably before.
And you spoke earlier of trying to get in front of Congress. Is that another goal that you guys have?
Yeah, getting in front of Congress uh, would be a great thing, uh, but I don't think it'll ever happen. They're too afraid to. But it's going to take the American people to do this. So if this is so cut and dry the way they say, what do they hide? Put us in front of court, and if they think we're lying, put us in jail.
Well, I think even for someone who has done a lot of research like myself and reading into this, I learned a lot from talking with you today. So, if folks want to do more reading and investigation for themselves, where can people find more resources regarding the USS Liberty?
Well, you can go to Body of Secrets by James Bamford and the Puzzle Palace. Uh, uh, Attack on the Liberty by James Scott. Uh, Assault on the Liberty by Jim Ennis and Phil Nelson. Remember the Liberty, Phil Nelson. Uh, we're co-authors on that. There's three of us that are on there. Myself, Ron Kukul, and Ernie Gallo, and it gives a really good account what happened and what's going on. And also go to sacrificingliberty.com. Watch that 4-hour series. It is well worth it, and you'll learn so much out of it.
Mr. Tourney, I want to thank you again for your service, your courage, tenacity, just your persistence to pursue justice, and we appreciate you giving us some of your time today.
Well, thank you, and have a good one. I did have a good time with you. Thanks for letting me do it.
That is it for me today. If you want more stories that the mainstream media is unwilling to tell, please check out and subscribe to my YouTube channel 5149 with James Lee. The link will be in the description below. As always, I'd love to thank you for your time today and keep on tuning into Breaking Points.